Welcome to the story the desert never forgot, the one the wind still carries and the stars still mourn. The desert learned to cry the night he let her go is not a poem, not a legend, but the truth whispered beneath the dunes. It's the tale of Sheikh Hamdan, the world's beloved Fazza, a man who wore destiny like gold but carried heartbreak like fire. Beneath the calm of his smile and the grace of his power lies a night that changed everything. The night the desert wept for him. The night he let go of the only soul who ever saw the man behind the prince. They said he was born with fortune in his blood, that the stars bowed the day he arrived. But what they never tell you about kings and crowns is that they are often built on sacrifice, and his greatest one was her. She came into his life like dawn breaking over endless dunes, gentle, inevitable, divine. She didn't worship his titles, didn't tremble before his name. She spoke to him like he was human. That was her gift, and her curse, because the world never forgives those who make royalty feel. He loved her not with noise, but with depth. Every silence between them was a verse, every glance a prayer. The world saw him as a ruler of men, but she ruled the spaces between his heartbeats. When she smiled, his world softened. When she walked away, his soul fractured. They loved in secret, between obligations and eternity, knowing that the world around them would never understand something so pure. For a moment, time stood still. But fate, cruel, unrelenting fate, does not kneel to love, even when it's royal. The night he let her go, the air itself refused to move. The stars dimmed, as though ashamed to witness it. He stood before her, not as a prince, not as a poet, but as a man defeated by destiny. Her tears fell first, his followed, silently, because kings are not allowed to cry. But that night, the desert saw what no one else did. It saw a man breaking apart, it heard his whispered pleas swallowed by the wind. It learned how to cry, because his heart taught it how. When she turned away, he didn't stop her. Not because he didn't want to, but because he couldn't. Duty stood between them like an unmovable wall. He knew that love sometimes demands the cruelty of release. And so he watched her walk into the distance until her shadow merged with the horizon, and that was when the first tear of the desert fell. Sandstorms rose where none had been. The wind screamed his name. Even nature rebelled against what had just been lost. That night his palace was silent. He walked through its golden halls as if he were wandering through a tomb. Every painting, every chandelier, every reflection reminded him of what he had given up. They said he had everything. They were wrong. What is everything, he wondered, when you've lost the one thing that made you feel alive? His crown gleamed, but his heart dulled. His people saw a prince of light, but within him, the sun had set forever. He retreated to the desert days later, as if drawn by the memory of her footprints still buried beneath the sand. There, he sat alone, the stars above him cold and indifferent. He spoke her name into the silence, half hoping the wind would carry it to wherever she had gone. But it only brought it back, echoing, haunting, unanswered. That was when he realized the truth, that some loves don't end, they echo. And that echo is what keeps him alive and broken all at once. He built his empire with hands that once trembled for her. Every accomplishment since that night feels hollow, every victory stained by the sound of her leaving. His poetry became his confession, verses of love disguised as wisdom, sorrow hidden beneath metaphors. People read his words and feel inspired, not knowing they were born from regret. Every poem he writes is another tear he never allowed himself to shed. The desert may have cried once, but he still cries through ink. Sometimes, when he rides beneath the vast sky, he imagines her still out there, somewhere beyond reach, living a quiet life untouched by royalty. He wonders if she looks at the same stars, if she remembers that night. He tells himself that letting her go was the right thing, that kings must sometimes choose the crown over the heart. But then the wind shifts, whispering her name again, and he knows, the desert remembers what he's tried.
There are whispers that say the desert still carries her fragrance, faint, elusive, like the memory of rain on forgotten soil. Each grain of sand holds a fragment of that night, a silent witness to the love that melted even the heart of a ruler. Sheikh Hamdan walks there still, not as a king but as a seeker. The same dunes that once echoed his laughter now echo his remorse. Every sunset that kisses the horizon feels like a reminder, beauty always comes with an ending, and endings are never kind to hearts that still hope. He has written hundreds of verses since that night, each one dipped in longing. Yet no poem, no matter how divine, can resurrect what he lost. His words sparkle like the stars above the desert, but behind their brilliance lies sorrow. Love, he once wrote, is not about keeping, but remembering. And so he remembers, not to suffer, but to honor. Her memory has become his religion, her silence his prayer. Even his horses seem to know, when he rides across the dunes, they move softly, as if afraid to disturb the ghost of her presence. At dawn, when the desert glows with golden fire, he sometimes feels her spirit walking beside him. Not as a shadow, but as warmth, the kind that lives in the spaces between heartbeats. He doesn't dare to speak her name aloud anymore, it feels too sacred, too alive. Instead, he lets his silence speak for him, trusting that somewhere, the wind carries the message across eternity, I still love you. And when the first light touches his face, he almost believes she answers back, softly, in the rhythm of the wind. They say kings do not kneel, but he has not before power, but before memory. In the solitude of his private garden, where the world cannot see him, he kneels among the roses she once admired. The flowers bloom brighter there as if remembering her laughter. He closes his eyes and whispers to the petals, if she could see this, would she forgive me? But only the breeze replies, brushing against him like the gentle hand he once held and lost. The garden, like his heart, blooms and bleeds in the same breath. Over time, the world crowned him with titles, poet, prince, protector, legend. But beneath those crowns lies a man who still dreams of the girl who didn't need to be impressed. She was not dazzled by his gold or fame, she saw him when no one else could. That was why losing her hurt more than any wound he could bear. She didn't belong to his kingdom, she belonged to his silence, to his truth, to his soul. And though time has moved on, his heart never did. It still stands where she left it, waiting without complaint. On some nights, when the moonlight spills across the desert like liquid silver, he feels her closer than ever. The stars seem to hum, the air softens,